Hey, chocolate friends, it's Carla from Opening Chocolate here to talk to you about another chocolate maker. This one is Sjolinds Chocolate Maker, or Sjolinds Chocolate House, out of a place called Mount Horeb, Wisconsin in the United States. This one was started in 2006 by Tracy Thompson. Mount Horeb is a little town, 7,000 people in Wisconsin, kind of outside of Madison. So Tracy is a trained pastry chef, and she wanted to start, she got the idea to start a little coffee chocolate shop part-time while raising her family. And what happened is it blossomed into an artisan chocolate shop, a cafe, a bakery, and a family business. So her husband is an accountant and a part-time baker. Her daughters work. So her daughter Melissa was involved in developing the chocolate recipes, and they're bakers and chocolatiers. So lots of family members involved in the business now, and no longer part-time. So Tracy was first introduced to bean to bar chocolate when she had gone, she was looking at a specialty shop for some treats for a funeral, and she found some bars that had this nuance that was missing. They had the chocolate flavors and nuance that was missing from the chocolate that she used in the 80s and 90s in her pastry making. And so 2006 they opened their store, and in 2008 Melissa, the daughter, began to do a few experiments with bean to bar chocolate to see what they could come up with. She ordered 5 pounds of beans off of the internet, and just to try to see what happened, and she tried roasting them on. So a lot of bean to bar chocolate makers are not starting with full-on factories. They start in their kitchens, and that's where a lot of people experiment. So that's where she started, roasting the beans on her stovetop. Then she roasted them in one of those whirly air pop popcorn makers. Then she moved to a 3-pound coffee roaster, and they were cracking them in a Ninja blender and just doing these tiny experiments with tiny batches, and just making 1 to 2 types of chocolate at a time, tweaking the recipe as she went, and just learning and experimenting as you should when you're learning to make chocolate. So now I have 4 bars today that I'm still deciding which one I want to open. So I'm leaning towards one. So I've got this one, Madeline Island, which is a dark chocolate with ginger and lavender toffee. That sounds delicious, doesn't it? The Truffle Bar with orange and habanero. The Lilyhammer that is sea salt, toffee, and cocoa nibs, and the Wisconsin butter. So let me tell you a little bit about some of that. So the name Sjolinds is Norwegian in background, and the area in Wisconsin. So Wisconsin is known for it had a lot of Scandinavian immigrants in the 1800s, and so there's a lot of descendants from those Scandinavian immigrants. And the name Sjolinds is Tracy's mother's maiden name. And her daughters, so I don't know how well this comes through on the camera, but can you see this is a wax seal? So that's her mother's maiden name. Her daughters designed the seal with a Norwegian flower on it. So they've got that heritage in there, the Norwegian heritage, but they're also coming from Wisconsin. So in case you don't know, Wisconsin is a state in the United States that is famous for its dairy products. And this too goes back to, historically, to Scandinavian immigrants who came to the area. So the town that they're in, Mount Horeb is a biblical location term. In Deuteronomy, it is where Moses was said to receive the 10 Commandments. But it was named by an Englishman, and then by the 1870s, you have a lot of Norwegian immigrants coming, and they are now playing a significant part of the population. So by the 1870s, Dane County was huge with Scandinavian immigrants. There was 59,000 in the state of Wisconsin. In 1800s, 75% of the people on Mount Horeb were of Scandinavian origin or descent. So that's part of it. So you have this dairy industry that came up at the same time as all these immigrants are coming in, and they're really exploding the dairy industry in Wisconsin. By the 1870s, you have a dairymen's association being formed to market dairy products to the rest of the nation. And Scandinavian families were really a strong part of that in history. So they quickly adapted to the area and their dairy farms. They became famous for creating European style cheeses, specifically Swiss cheese. So by 1915, Wisconsin was the leading dairy producer in the United States. They were producing more butter and more cheese than any other state in the country. You also may associate Wisconsin, so this is kind of historical, kind of modern, Wisconsin with Cheeseheads. You may have seen, I'll put a picture up, you may have seen people with these Cheesehead hats on. It's like a wedge of Swiss cheese on their head. This was originally an insult from the people of Illinois to the people of Wisconsin. So it comes from a Dutch word that basically meant you have a head of cheese, which is kind of like saying you're an idiot. So, but instead of being insulted by this, the people of Wisconsin wholly embraced this cheesehead dairy motif, and they embrace it as their own now. So an American football team out of Green Bay, Wisconsin, the Green Bay Packers, their fans are called Cheeseheads. And in general, you can kind of call someone from, well, I wouldn't call them, but someone from Wisconsin would be a cheesehead. So they've embraced the original insult and taken it and make it their own, which is awesome. So that's where you get the Norwegian background. That's where you get the dairy, the Wisconsin butter, that's part of the important part of the culture of the area and what goes into the chocolate making at Sjolinds. Okay, so I'm going to open one of their bars, and I think, because I just talked about all the history of this, I'm going to open their Wisconsin butter bar and see what that is. So let's flip the camera around and check it out. Okay, so let's take a look at what I got. So I have the Truffle Bar, the Orange Habanero, Madeline Island, which is part of their Forward collection. So their Forward collection is bringing the sweet to the savory. So you've got ginger and lavender toffee. The Lillehammer. So Lillehammer again brings in that Norwegian background. Lillehammer is a place it's a town, city in Norway. A ski town. What year were the Olympics? I think the Olympics were in 1994 in Lillehammer. I may be wrong, but correct me if I am. But that's a Norwegian town, so showing their Scandinavian heritage. And then we've got the Wisconsin butter. So I think I'm going to open this one because we have the Wisconsin dairy heritage in this one as well. So I'll just move these ones aside. So their packaging, they all do the packaging by hand. It's got this nice twine and then a wax. You can see the wax seal here. You've got their name, the Sjolinds Chocolate House. These are bean to bar bars. Let's see what else. I hate to, this seal is so lovely. I hate to break it. You've got the Norwegian flower designed by her daughters on there. Might be hard to open. Oh, I don't think I'm going to be able to open this one delicately. All right, so let's take that off. Okay, that there. Okay, so it's nicely hand wrapped. Family business since 2007. Looks good so far. That's what I thought. Okay, so here's what happens to a chocolate bar when you put a wax seal on the outside, which is fine. That's okay. It's not going to affect the taste too much, but you can see it's brought it a little bit out of temper right there from the seal, and so you got a little bit of a bloom, but that's okay. They have the nice design with the Norwegian flower on there, the Scandinavian flower. But otherwise, it looks pretty good, but it is mostly in temper. Let's listen to the snap. It's a soft snap because this is so we're adding the butter in this bar, which probably means they're replacing some of the cocoa butter with a clarified butter. They don't say on their page or in this bar. Let's see the ingredients. So we have cocoa beans, sugar, cocoa butter, milk powder, butter, and salt. So they don't say what the percentage is, so I don't know that. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take a piece, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to warm it up a little bit with my thumb to melt that cocoa butter that has a melting point near body temperature and release some of the aromatics. Smell it and taste it, and we'll see what we get. Okay, so while I was off tasting chocolate, I decided to open a second one. So let's talk about this one first. So this Wisconsin butter, I would guess, is somewhere between a 40 and a 50% cocoa. It's got the dairy really stands out. So you get a nice kind of brownie cocoa flavor, but you also get not a sweet dairy, but kind of almost with the salt in there, a little bit of a savory dairy. It's a nice milk chocolate bar. Then I also opened their Madeline Island Bar, which was the ginger and lavender toffee. It's obviously a much darker cocoa bar. It has a nice snap, so let me never get do a snap for you. It's got a much stronger snap than the milk. I have a hard time picking out the lavender, and it may be just the piece that I ate had a giant piece of ginger in it, and that's fine. But it looks like it's in nice temper. It's got a nice dark chocolate flavor. I guess this one is somewhere around a 70. And it's got lots of inclusions in it. So if you look at the back, you can see all the inclusions in there. The ginger for me really comes through as the strongest flavor in here. The lavender is very subtle, as is the toffee. It doesn't come through as very sweet at all. You can see on this one as well that the wax seal didn't make as much because this is such a soft with the butter and the cocoa butter. You can see that on this one with the less cocoa butter and butter that the wax seal didn't melt it as much, didn't affect it as much. But both really nice bars, definitely worth trying. And I look forward to trying the other two that I have, the habanero and orange, which habanero scares me a little bit. I'm not super spicy lady, and the Lilyhammer. So I look forward to trying those all as well. So let's flip the camera around and finish up. Okay, so that was Sjolinds Chocolate. They are community is really important to them, and like many makers this past year, they had a hard time with COVID, with all the shutdowns, especially in Wisconsin. Wisconsin was hit really hard with COVID. So they have 2 locations. One of their stores is actually on a Lilyhammer Lane. So I think right now they only have one store open for drive-through, but you can order online. They have single origins as well as included in flavor bars. So lots of things to try. If you're in Wisconsin, they have a store. You can get hot chocolate and other treats and baked goods and all kinds of stuff like that. What else can I tell you about them? So, the other thing I want to do, community is important in that area to them. And so one day a customer came in and saw them picking. So once you roast a cacao bean, you have to separate the nibs from the outer shell, which is called winnowing. And they were doing this by hand. And one of their customers came in and saw them and said, there has got to be a better way to do that. And yes, there was a better way than doing that by hand. And so this guy, his name was Ed Moen. He was a local motel owner, and he had a degree in mechanical design. So he created a winnower for them out of PVC pipe and a shop vac. And eventually, when they started producing more chocolate, he made another winnower for them that was made out of food grade stainless steel, which is cool. That's always nice to see community coming together to help each other out. And I really like that a lot of times on here you'll see me talking about makers at origin celebrating their culture. Well, these guys aren't makers at origin, but they are celebrating their local culture. So that's really cool to me. I would really like to see some cheese and chocolate. That would be really fun to have in their bars. And I look forward to seeing what else they come up with in their future lines. So go check them out for sure. If you have tried them, or if you have tried a cheese and chocolate pairing that you like, or if you just want to say anything else to me, say hi in the comments and let me know what you're thinking about chocolate, whether or not this is something that interests you in trying, or if you have a chocolate maker that you think I should talk about on my channel. Leave me a comment, leave me a like, and I will see you next week with another video. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching.